I thought I'd take a break from all the action-packed reviews that I have been so generously bringing you, and instead focus on something a little different. Most of these reviews that I've been doing recently, one might say focus a little bit on my yang energy. Destructive, action-packed, kayaking, climbing. There was some drag racing in there. I'm not even making that up. Look, there's a video where I went to a drag race. Come on now. But now I think it might be wise to focus on some of my yin energy, which is receptive and creative. Stop laughing. This is serious business. Most of my YouTube channel up until the change where, I don't know how many years back, but most of my YouTube channel has been kind of focused on, I think, yin and my more dorky exploits. Case in point, my love of cardistry. The bicycle black ghost deck. You better start believing in ghost stories. Yeah, just you know, mostly creative, fun, intellectual stuff. I don't know, intellectual, whatever. See if I can do a fan. Hell yeah. And those reviews were actually harder to do. I mean, literally these days, it's just, if I'm going to a place, if I'm going to go rock climbing, and I should just remember to bring a camera, which basically means my phone, then, you know, I'll film some clips, slap them together, and... In a Christianly sense, if you have to.
Yes.
Because Jesus says you have
yes.
to, but if it wasn't Jesus, you wouldn't give a shit.
Yes.
So that's why you want to do Satanism.
I thank him for all the football genes, but past that...
Football genes.
I hope to
so
put
what is
them
this?
to use.
You tell me what this is. Go ahead. What's that?
That looks like a piece of a taxi cab that somebody just kind of glued
this
thing as a prank.
Is this like what is this?
I like that butterfly meme. The butterfly meme
is fantastic, yeah.
It's one of my favorite, like, new memes. I saw a great one the other day. Like, the guy was an enlisted soldier and the butterfly was a stripper, and he went, "Is this a wife?" I saw that. Alright, a little slack. So I'm about to cheat my shit off. 5'8". Don't worry. Just a 5'8". Yeah, no. It's not hard. Fuck you. Fuck you if you think it's hard. Y'all like what you see? Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Don't.
Show off what I was gonna do anyway, and I hope you guys like it. That's pretty much why you're seeing everything in bars these days, because it's just easier for me to hold the camera, the phone that way, you know, that kind of thing. I've dropped a few hints and no one's kind of been critical about it yet, but I don't know. I feel like, I don't usually go around telling people that I keep a journal. Yeah, get it out of your system now. I think the closest that I got to revealing that was when I did a review of... This was actually really decent. And this got posted on Facebook. This is actually what made me want to start doing reviews again, was the positive reception that I got for the Write in the Rain tactical notebook. Buddy of mine got this for me last time I visited in Maryland. We went to a military supply store. He just got it to me as a present. Really cool dude. And I think, didn't I write somewhere? Yeah, the whole back is like filled with like weird military formula and symbols to remind... This is definitely what I'll be journaling in should I ever need to go on the lam. And yeah, you can actually literally see where I wrote obligatory paper quality test. And I did it in ink and I did it in pencil. The pencil held up when I put water over top of it. The ink did not. That's how the book works. Anyway, but one of the things that I've not really come out of the closet about yet is the fact that I love books and binding and journals and paper quality and specifically paperbacks. I like hardbacks, but I like paperbacks the best. I mean, I've had book reviews where I've gone through and been like, hey, these are the things that I've read, and maybe once or twice I've talked about how I've liked to smell the books. I have a copy here of The Heart of Buddha's Teaching by this gentleman here, and although the paper is coarse and I like construction paper, and really I'm not a big fan of the binding, the smell of the glue on the inside. I'm not the only person who does that. Shut up. If you actually want an example of something that I consider a really well bounded book. The quality of the paper is amazing. However, it does not smell good for some reason. Yes, Metro 2033. I'm about 75% the way through that, but I don't know. I've always liked books. I specifically like to almost like the same feeling I get with playing with cards and ruffling them and shuffling them. I just really like kind of flipping through things and turning pages and whatnot. And this is what led me to buy a Moleskine randomly one day. I didn't really feel like I had anything to put in there. I kind of thought journaling was just a massive waste of my time, which some would still argue it is. So this is the Moleskine in question. I didn't really use it for anything initially, just, for example, I thought I would just write some silly stuff down, take some notes. Yeah, you believe that? A notebook being used for notes. This is a list of all of the TMs from Gen 1 Pokemon. I was replaying it on the Virtual Console on my little Game Boy. And in the first game, in the menu, they do not list what they are. They just show them by number. And so I just kind of wrote them all down one day. And you could say, well, you could have used your cell phone for that. Yeah, I could have. I sure could. But I want to write things down. Also, take this with a massive grain of salt, but you are talking to someone who thinks that one day technology may fail, and honestly despises technology every single day, with the way that it gets more and more useless, the way that it gets more and more controlled. I can't tell you how many times I've been working out and a single droplet of sweat touches that screen and changes whatever workout song I've tuned up, probably something from the Rocky soundtrack, don't you judge me, to Christina Aguilera, or whatever pop ditzel, you know. I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to spike this thing because of how often it fails to work. And I started to think to myself as I was, putting in these journal entries, well, if most people keep, the records of their lives now in digital format, all of their pictures, whether uploaded to media, social media or not, they're in digital format. And honestly, well, what if one day there is something that occurs that makes that digital format not viable or not accessible or worse, gone? Honestly, I'm not a very prideful person, so, it wouldn't bother me as much. But I honestly found journaling kind of therapeutic. And to be perfectly honest, although this first one, that's okay. Rorschach, he just died. I mean, that's kind of like the... Never mind. Let's not ruin the... Let's not ruin the end of the book for everyone. This one, and I think the first one that I started using after that, which was a Rhodia. And, man, one of these days I'm going to need to do a review of Rhodia for you. These first two were not action-packed. These were honestly a lot of bitching about my work, which is really sad. But I vowed that this one, which is like the biggest, most bloated behemoth, this thing weighs about 3 pounds, I swear. I promised that I would fill it with kick-ass adventures and fighting games with action missiles. And so I did. And eventually, because of this one getting so bloated, I looked possibly to another brand to see if I could possibly get something that would last even longer, hold even more memories without having to change to a new volume, and could handle the various, items, ticket stubs, maps, whatever, what have you, that I glue into these things or wedge in the pages. And I did have a Leuchturm before, but this was actually it's the third Leuchturm I purchased. We could talk about my little flexible Leuchturm, but that's a whole other review. I literally have dozens of these things. Don't judge me. But, yeah, today I wanted to bring you a little review of the Leuchturm 1917. I guess they consider this a hardback, but it is known as the Master edition, or the Master Journal. I think I need to adjust the camera just to get it in frame. So, like I said, this is the third Leuchturm that I have actually had. I had one that was lined, and that was actually the second one that I bought, the second journal that I bought for the purpose of journaling, and it ended up going to a friend. I quickly found out about the glory of Rhodia from a lady who actually also does YouTube videos concerning journals and planners. I'm going to go ahead and maybe possibly kick her, put a little shout out into this. I'm going to talk to her later about that. But one of the reasons why I need to put this on here is to show you the size difference. Gonna go ahead and get me Mr. Ruler, because I thought about this for a long time because I needed to know the specs. These Rhodias, I think there's a name for this kind of sizing. I believe it's called A5. I'm not sure exactly how the sizing works, but for the most part, these things are pretty universal. Let me show you. This is a flexible Rhodia that called a Rhodiorama. Has that kind of weird classic leather-bound look, although I believe this is pea leather. I haven't used this yet, but one of the other factors that I really like about Rhodia, they have dot grid paper. If for whatever reason you have ever doubted the dot grid, never doubt the dot grid. This one had a factory defect. For some reason, certain pages were blank. They gave me some off on it when I purchased it. The dot grid can handle drawings. It can handle writing, and when you are finished writing in it, it almost looks like you wrote it on a blank page, which, let's face it, that looks classy. It looks classy and classic, and there we go. But the point is most of these are similar in size. Most of these journals will measure about the A5s, if I'm using that term correctly. Measure about, 5.5 inches by 8 inches, I think. Yeah, 5.5 by 8. This one's an 8 by 5. So a little bit shorter on the moleskins, and this is going to be a 5.5 by 8. The Leuchturm, which I believe, I talked to my German buddy about this, he says it means lighthouse. The lighthouse master grade rings in at an 8.5, but really 9 inches by a foot, by a damn foot. I haven't really even taken the cool little, whatever you want to call that, wrapper on the outside off, but comes with a pretty sturdy, whatever you want to call that, strap, Leuchturm. Usually these things feature 3 languages that kind of go through all the features. I think one is French, one is German. Just says notebook, 233 numbered pages, blank table of contents, 8 perforated detachable pages, expandable pocket for the A4 sheets, paper, marker, and page marker and elastic, I guess that's what that's called. Enclosure band, pretty sure, maybe that's the, I don't know. Thread-bound book opens flat. Sticker for labeling and archiving dimensions, shows you the dimensions, ink-proof paper, acid-proof paper. One of the stats that I happen to know about the Rhodias is that the Rhodia, with its superior 90-gram Clairefontaine French paper, don't you judge me. Don't you fucking judge me. Yeah, this actually has 100-gram paper. That was something that I knew. The binding feels sturdy and secure. It is hardback, but it feels demi-flexible, making me think that one could load this into a backpack easier than something that is this size, but is a hardback. Yeah, comes with a little thing on the inside that goes through the history of Leuchturm and shows you all the little different configurations you could get your notebook in. There's a little card saying thank you for buying it. You'll notice it's got a name and address on the first page, in case you want to give away your position to someone who finds your big-ass book. Unlike pretty much every other journal on the market, this one comes with a table of contents page that is the first 1, 2, 3 pages. After that, it is big, beautiful dot grid pages. And I have written some stuff in the back as a ink test, but before we do that, let's take a quick look at what all these Leuchturms end up coming with, except for, like, the micro models, obviously. These labels, which is actually what I robbed off of the other Leuchturm to label this one. I've never used another one of these. I ended up giving him to my buddy, who I lent the Leuchturm to for journaling purposes. And it also has these big pockets. These are pretty standard on all these cool, hip college notebooks. I've never found a use for them other than sticking possible stickers that I may end up sticking, in the leaves, in the front and back book binding. So, I'm going to have to move this sucker over into the light. Did a bunch of ink tests here. Wonder if I can zoom up on it. I have to move the camera. I also used a little pencil to draw a guy in a fedora, just for you. This was all done actually a while ago. There you go. Hell yeah. Look at all that. That's what my weird handwriting looks like. I could go over what it says, but it's mostly just ranting because it's like, what do you say? It's stuff like the big brown fox jumped over the fence. I wrote obligatory ghosting check sentence. This book is filled with 100-gram paper. I'm still not finished with my Rhodia journal yet, but soon I will see how comfortable it is to write in this big thing. Let me zoom back out. So ghosting, that is a major thing that a lot of people who are into journaling talk about, is whether or not you will be able to see ink on the other side. You would think with 100-gram paper that you would not. However, you kind of do. And I would say that this ghosting is definitely more noticeable than any Rhodia that I've worked with. But certainly less than your standard Moleskine, which is fine for a lot of people. A lot of people really like Moleskine. It is quality. It is nowhere near the quality of Leuchturm, and it will never be near the quality of Rhodia. But I found that it handled different inks pretty well. That is a standard, 5.7, or not 5.7, that's a gun. Yes, it's a 5.7. Now, what is it called? Precise 0.5 millimeter ink by, I think, Pilot. That's pretty decent. That is from a Lamy pen, a German Lamy pen. Is it a thick quill? I forget, or what do they call it? Thick nib. Blue ink, I actually have the replacement cartridges, right, and this is from a Pilot, Japanese Pilot Metropolitan pen that I have loaded with custom ink. Yeah, I am a fancy pants journaler, and I do not care what you think. So, I guess the big question is, why am I not using this? Why did I immediately go over to another Rhodia? Oh, and one of the other things that you might notice, again, like it mentioned, detachable pages. So this is a perforated line. You wouldn't have to tear out the binding. Actually, that's what it's doing. There you go. You just have to kind of get it going, and then you can take the page out. And now you have a page. I don't really see a need for that. The Germans thought it was cool. Of any notebook brand, Leuchturm has the most weird features of anything. It's like the way that Japanese cars kind of pioneer just all the little nooks and crannies. There's nothing wrong with these pages. This is a great notebook. I love ruffling these pages, and I wish I could fill it with stuff, but I'm going to be honest, although the size would make it more ideal, I thought, for holding things like... I realized, say, all of these little keepsakes that I was printing out, I was printing out photographs. I was also, I'll keep ticket stubs or maps from parks in, where's the one? Here we go. This is when my Ford Explorer reached 160,000 miles. And I just wedged it in the pages, printed it out. There it is. And you can only do that so much before these things just explode. And I thought possibly this would be able to handle it better. And maybe it can. I haven't really tried. That's the problem. But the reason why I haven't is because it is awkward to write on. It is big. And the portability proves to be a bit of an issue. So for now, I am sticking with my Rhodia. However, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with this. The price point on this was a little much. It was like $35. But if you are an artist and you are doing big, art pieces, sketching, if you are doing architecture and you need to put a lot of little notes in there, or you're learning art, or you plan to go on a year-long trip to Europe. I'm just kidding. You're a millennial. You're never going to get to fucking do that. Also, you might want to notice there are numbered pages. I'm not going to zoom in on that. This is 65. You take my word for it, okay? Anyway, after this is done, I'm literally going to turn the camera off and probably do some journaling. So, thanks for tuning in. I hope this cleared up any of the questions you might have had about the Leuchturm journal. Is it the master journal? No, I don't know. Maybe. Depends on your journaling needs. Yeah.